Jesus was on the road heading for Jerusalem. He had just told his disciples that he was going to go there to give up his life to redeem many people. No one knew what he meant. He had a big following. Many expected that Jesus would lead a national uprising against the Roman rulers. Well, as Jesus was leaving Jericho, on his last town before arriving at Jerusalem, he passed by some beggars squatting on their mats, begging for alms. It was a good place for begging because pilgrims en route to Jerusalem were filled with religious fervour, and that made them a soft touch for giving alms. One well-established beggar was known as Bartimeus, meaning son of Timaeus, his father. Didn't seem to have a personal name of his own. He was not established in life, no home of his own, no wife, no family, no job, no income, and no education. People knew him for what he didn't have, eyesight, not for what he did have, everything else. Every other body part was in good working order, but without sight, all that he was good for was shouting. They pushed him, they looked down on him, they labelled him, cursed by God. He was sick of it. He was sick of being left out, he was sick of missing out, he was sick of being of no worth to anybody. One thing he knew was that when Messiah came, he would not join in all this discrimination, but he'll be on the side of the poor and the oppressed, like him. Seemed like a slim hope waiting for this Messiah. Well, this particular day, the town is alive. Bartimeus heard that Jesus of Nazareth was passing through. He had a reputation for healing hopeless cases like him, and he thinks that this Jesus has all the marks of Messiah, and if so, he was of the line of David, our great king. Most of the crowd are more interested in the possibility that he will lead a charge against the Romans. But that means nothing to our blind man, Bartimeus. He wanted to see. He heard the din of the crowd getting louder and louder. Jesus must be near. He begins to shout, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me!" Some people get upset. They tell him to shut up. He takes that as a clue that Jesus is close, so he shouts even louder. He may not be able to see, but he's got plenty of shouting practice. He shouts loud, "Son of David, have mercy on me!" Well, this upsets more crowd members. They don't think that a lowlife like him should slow down the progress of their would-be deliverer. He can't see where Jesus is, but he can make sure that Jesus knows where he is. He's not put off by any crowd members, no matter who they think they are. This Jesus helps people in need, even nobodies like him. And he heals them too with miracles that only God can do. That makes him Messiah in his book, and he knows a few scriptures. He was going to get the attention of this Jesus by the best means that he knows how, on the road, out of Jericho, towards Jerusalem, at the right time, shouting loud. The noise dies down. The crowd has stopped. He senses it is close. They stop telling him to be quiet, and someone comes over to him. "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." He doesn't need a second prompt. He stands up, he throws off his coat, he feels for some hands, and he follows where they lead. It's just a short distance, and then they stop. He senses that he is in the presence of someone extraordinary. It is Jesus. The crowd becomes quiet. It's just him and Jesus speaks. "What do you want me to do for you?" Jesus knows he's blind, but his question encourages him. It arouses something deep within him to get active, invites him to get involved in overcoming the curse that has struck him down, making him helpless. For a moment in time, the stage is set. Here's an open invitation to request anything from the one that he believes is Messiah, the deliverer, his deliverer. The crowd saw him as a nuisance and ordered him silent. But Jesus, Messiah, sees him worth stopping a whole crowd for, and he invites him to speak. Whatever he wants, he's empowered by this question, and he's got no hesitation. "Rabbi, teacher, I want to see." He states clearly and boldly, he doesn't want to stay blind and helpless, dependent on others and treated like rubbish. He wants eyes that actually see things. He wants to leave behind begging, take control of his life. And he believes that Jesus can do this. And as he speaks, his courage grows, and he believes the words that he is speaking out. And Jesus speaks again. "Go, your faith has healed you," he says. What? He thought Jesus would heal him, but instead Jesus says that his faith has healed him. These words arouse more inner strength, more faith, and then it happens. His eyes begin to take in light, shapes of people, a person, a face, a beautiful face. It is Jesus. The first thing he sees with his own eyes is the face of Jesus. He will never forget that face, that smile, that compassion. The moment seems to last and last. Their eyes meet each other. He is being loved and accepted. He belongs to Messiah. And how did he do it? He doesn't know, but to his surprise, he doesn't make an announcement, no magic words, just, "Your faith has made you well." Well, these words touched something deep in his soul. He got more than just sight. He got healed of the curse that had crippled his spirit, helplessness. Every day he used to hear, "There's that blind beggar." That's a double curse. Well, get this. I'm no longer blind and I'm no longer helpless. Jesus gave him the key to getting on his feet, getting up and getting going. And what was that? It was the first thing he saw when he opened his eyes for the very first time, the face of Jesus. He got more than physical sight. He got to see Messiah. He got redemption. He got to leave behind his old blind, helpless life back there on the road somewhere, with his old coat and his old blanket and begging bowl, and he got restored into society. He began to walk with him on the road, following Jesus. Instead of catching second-hand news from passers-by, now he was the news. He got up close and personal with Jesus. Now people start coming up to him to find out about Jesus. Me? A teacher, he thinks? That's funny. That's redemption. And they asked him, "How did you get an audience with Jesus?" And he told them, "Well, get things right like I did," he says. "Well, what things did you get right?" they ask. And so he tells them, "Well, first I got his identity right. He's the Son of Man. He is Master, the ultimate teacher. You fellows want him to be Messiah leading a revolt against Rome, but you are wrong. He's Messiah all right, leading a revolt against sin, sickness and helplessness. And secondly, I got in the right position, a beggar needing help." Now some of you think you need to be important to get an audience, but not with the true Messiah. He looks out for helpless beggars to raise them up. He got in the right position. And thirdly, he insists, I used the right approach. He was actively looking for help. He was not just a passive onlooker. He was hungry for help, and he went out after it, shouting loud. And fourthly, I had the right words, he said. He told Jesus exactly what he wanted, and Jesus listened and heard and answered him. And fifthly, he says, I had the right attitude. He had faith that Jesus could heal him and would heal him, and so he did just as he believed, and he got his sight. And finally, I had the right response. Didn't just go off and do my own thing, but he followed Jesus along the road, and he continues to follow him to the end. Where are you going now? They ask. So he tells them that if they follow where he came from to where he was now, they will know where he is going. At the start, he was a lonely beggar on the roadside, far away from Jesus. And then he tried to connect with Jesus by shouting to him. And then he shouted louder and he was heard. And then when Jesus stopped and called him, he jumped at the invitation and he came to him. And then they spoke person to person. And as he spoke, Jesus' words strengthened him within. Bartimeus believes that he was healed physically. He gained his sight. The first face he saw was Jesus. It was intimate, but it didn't stop there. Jesus commended his faith in him as Messiah, and he healed his spirit. And then he followed him along the road, and Jesus restored him to the community. He was healed socially and emotionally. And where was he heading now? Well, if you follow his progress from being distant to being close and then to being intimate, he was heading on the road to more intimacy with Jesus. He was using his story to tell others about him, and eventually Jesus will welcome him into his eternal home to be with him forever. And that is redemption.